Yeah, I had a pretty good time. So on Monday, October 21st, I got to see Magpie at Twin Cities Film Festival at the West End Cinema in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And I had a great time. My buddies and I got to go attend the red carpet before the actual screening of the film. So we got to see Daisy Ridley and Tom Bateman actually interact with the interviewers and whatnot and pose for pictures and sign autographs and do all that cool stuff. And it was just such a really, really neat experience. And unlike anything I had ever done before, I've never been at a film premiere before. And so I felt completely blown away by the experience. And then we actually get to sit down and see the film in a packed theater full of people who are here to support the film and just enjoy the film festival overall. And I had a great time. I think Magpie is such a great entry in the indie film catalog, and I highly recommend people go and see it. Daisy Ridley plays Annette. She is a mother of two, and her husband is Ben. Ben is currently helping their daughter Matilda prepare for a role she has in a movie with this actress named Alicia. And as Ben is chaperoning Matilda for her days shooting on set, they are both, of course, spending a lot of time with Alicia and becoming more familiar with one another. And this develops a conflict where Annette feels that she is not receiving nearly as much attention from her husband and starts to suspect that her husband may have an infatuation with this actress Alicia. And that's where the plot goes from there. I will not talk about any more of the film specifically. I will say, though, Daisy Ridley gives an incredible performance as always. I haven't seen her give one bad performance. And before you guys go into the comments and start talking about the Star Wars sequel trilogy, listen, that is not what we're going to talk about today. We are simply talking about Magpie, this new film that she not only starred in, but also helped produce and worked really closely with her husband Tom Bateman to actually write the film and make it into what we have now. The film itself is incredibly well shot. I think Sam Yates does an incredible job with the direction, the sound design, with the soundtrack as well. I think these characters have a really great dynamic together. There are scenes between Ben and Annette where they're just sitting on the couch having a conversation, and there can be just the most simplistic dialogue, and yet there is so much communicated via their physical performance, their body language. The dialogue is also so authentically written. They did a great job in that department as well, and I overall had a great time with this film. After the actual screening of the film, we were able to participate in a Q&A where Daisy Ridley and Tom Bateman came out in front of everyone in the theater and were answering questions from the audience as well as the host of the event that night. My friend Eric was able to ask a question, I was able to ask a question, and I'll play those videos in a short moment, but I had a great time with Magpie. I went in completely blind, having no idea what this movie was about, and I came out enjoying the time that I spent in the theater, as well as the experience of the film festival as a whole. As for a score out of 10, I'm gonna have to give this one an 8. Now I'm gonna play a couple of the clips that we were able to record from the Q&A after the event. Not only was it just amazing to be in the same room as Daisy Ridley and Tom Bateman after they were presenting their film to us, but to actually be able to interact with them and ask questions and have them answer it just to get a little bit more insight into their creative process into this film and also understand how they went about this film both creatively and financially was just such an incredible experience. So this first clip I'm going to play is the question that my buddy Eric was able to ask them when they started turning over to the audience for questions. He shot his hand up right away and was the first person that they called on, so that was really cool. And I, like a good friend, decided to record this simply for posterity. So forgive the awkward camera angle at the start, but I was trying to get him in the frame while he is right next to me and then, pivot to get a good frame to fit them into the shot as well without being a complete and utter obtrusive idiot and just standing up in the theater and holding my phone out and blocking everyone's view. So here's that clip.
It was a great film, and it reminded me a lot of Three Colors White from the Three Colors trilogy.
It was at this moment that Daisy Ridley went,
Brilliant film. But my question was, so how does this differ from more independent films and more big budget films? Like the difference between that, like more of creative control or just more of control with your actors? That kind of question.
I had never raised finance for a movie, so that was different in this. I had been in independent films, but I hadn't been involved in that. So in that regard, there was a lot more business to it than just the creative, which is a strange thing to juggle. But we had really full creative control. We had amazing financiers who were very on board with us. So in that way, it was absolutely amazing. It is trickier, I suppose, because then you have to go out and try and sell the film, and you don't have a clear understanding of how that's going to go. But also shout out.
Jordan's right over there. By the exit.
Shout, who took the film from South by, have been the most amazing partners. So that's been a really great journey to here. But this is really the first film where I have understood the intricacies and the potential pitfalls and the hurdles and all it takes to make a film. And honestly, my respect for any filmmaker has just gone up, whether that be independent or studio movie.
Thank you.
I think too as well, if I can just add, the creative control that Daisy talks about is something that I've heard more and more working with directors and writers. A lot of them talk about, my God, it's this catch-22, that if you get a big studio, and which by the way, they're amazing, and they're incredible experience to be part of, but there are so many people having a voice, and even in our small family, you realize, you go, my God, everyone does have an opinion. But when the two of us had this idea of what we wanted, I remember vividly Daisy saying, I want to make a film where people at the end of it are just like almost whooping, like, and that buzz when you leave the cinema, they're just going, oh my God, that bit. So that was our MO, that's what we wanted to do. And we didn't find any resistance really, but it was amazing to be able to just tell people, instead of asking, may we do this with your money, please? Being able to say, this is our vision, this is what we want to do, and really like getting a sense of them going, okay, let's go, we're on board, okay, and it became a bit more collaborative, I suppose, and that was really, kind of got spoiled from that, you know, that you can kind of do anything, even in the editing room, it was just me, Daisy, Kate, Sam, Chris, our amazing editor, just a bunch of us just like having bagels in the morning and coffee going, how can we make this as fun as possible without kind of having to answer to these people in the sky above us.
All right, the second clip I got here is the question that I was able to ask them, which was such a cool opportunity. And mad respect to my buddy Eric for having my back and recording this much like I did for him. Can't thank him enough for that and just having this so I can include this in the video. But I do want to give some context because I think he started recording like halfway through the first part of my question. What I start to say is that I'm always blown away by good dialogue in films, you know, films that feel authentic, where the conversations feel like they're plucked right out of reality. And I was mainly asking this because I was so impressed by how the dialogue was written in this film, that it did feel so genuine and like these were real people. I really bought into the reality of this situation. And so that's the context needed to what I'm about to say, right?
As an amateur movie buff myself, I can come up with decent ideas, but I'm never good at coming up with dialogue or having characters interact. And obviously it's a lot easier to write dialogue when, you know, you have incredible talent translating that on screen.
By the way, right when I said that, Daisy Ridley smiled at me. I will always cherish that. And if nothing else, I can at least say I made Daisy Ridley smile.
But I'm just curious, how is it that you go about writing dialogue, and then how do you convey that to your actors so they're able to represent that, and how are you working with the director so that what you're writing is properly translated on screen?
It's a great question. And to be honest, I work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just work at it. Like, I think if I was to show you my first couple drafts of this, I wouldn't be sitting here. Honestly, my own personal method really is, without sounding creepy, I have a lot of conversations in my head, and it's a weird, I don't know if it's a condition, but like I'll honestly be sort of sitting there and I remember, do you know Jez Butterworth, the playwright Jez Butterworth?
Yeah.
Amazing playwright in England. And he wrote this play called Jerusalem with Mark Rylance, amazing. Anyway, he's an incredible playwright, and I went to a workshop of his once, and he said something similar, which he said, I feel weird saying that it's me, because he said, honestly, like once I have an idea for the script, I sort of sit down and I start to force a scene into working, like I'll just start it, like interior, car, and then start working it. And then he goes, they kind of start talking to each other. And honestly, the reason I say that's then you have to work at it, for me, I will write what I hear, and it's just a conversation in my head. And then I'll read it back and go, that's terrible, but there's one line in it that I go, that's really good. And how can I like condense that down so that it doesn't need to be a 5-line spiel? What are they really trying to say? And really, what would someone really say in real life? Like would I ever say this out loud to a human being? No, I wouldn't. I'd actually just mumble 2 words and think like that's how I did it. But honestly, like, yeah, as I said, work, like the drafts, like a lot of the stuff I would show Daisy, and she'd be like, that's amazing. Make it 10% the length. Like, it's too long. Like, no one would speak for that long. Why wouldn't she interrupt there? I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I think to the point that I was saying to you as well, like, that's why listening to other people, because I would write something and think, this is the most amazing thing anyone's ever written. And Daisy would read it and go, I don't get it. And listening to that, not just going, fuck you, listening to it and just going, oh, do you know what? You're right, why don't you get it? It's probably because of this. And they're really working and spending like an hour on one piece of dialogue to make it perfect, and then showing it to Daisy and her going, that's good, I like that. Yeah, I guess inspiration needs.
And the last clip I have for you was a question posed by the host himself of the event, and just asking them about how the casting process worked for this film. And before I play the actual clip really quick, I just want to give a disclaimer that when Daisy Ridley answers this next question, she does get into a little bit of spoiler territory, which is why I left this question for the end of the video. But if you have seen the film and want to proceed, go right ahead. Otherwise, you can skip to that time code in the video, and that will take you to just my close out of this video, my final thoughts and everything on the film festival and everything else. But I just wanted to put this disclaimer in here because I realized while editing that, yeah, she does get into kind of spoiler territory in terms of what she's talking about. So skip to that time code if you don't want to hear anything. Everything past this point will be spoiler free and you'll be fine. But I just wanted to include this for those of you who didn't want to know anything going into the film.
You came to cast them in these amazing, weren't they amazing? She's already was there. Casting a little bit.
Well, you can speak to Chaz, but Matilda, we knew we were looking for someone who had to have a movie star quality, and I mean, her smile alone, we're like, yeah, she looks like Julia Roberts, it's amazing. But we met a few people, and everyone was really interesting, and everyone we saw for the film was really interesting, but there was just something about her that was so wonderful, and we also knew that the audience would be potentially putting some projections onto her, of course, because we all think we're seeing one thing that really isn't there. And I think she had such a mix of amazing things, and the way she played things is so open to interpretation. Of course, she did a number of different takes, and we sculpted what is there. But she was so wonderful. I was filming when she was taping, and I was literally eating like popcorn, watching her, thinking, oh my god, it's like I'm watching the full film. She was just phenomenal. And then Hiba, who was my little girl in it, we thought it would be really difficult to get a child. Child casting is famously very difficult, and she was one of the first kids we saw. And again, we knew we needed someone who was innocent enough that she is a child, but she had so much intelligence to the point that she never read the script, of course, she only knew what she was doing. And she turned to me one day and goes, Ben is not the hero of this story.
So I hope you enjoyed those somewhat exclusive clips, I guess, that I was able to record and present to you guys. My friends and I had a great time at Twin Cities Film Festival. I realized there were a lot more days to this whole fest, and there were a ton of other movies that I just didn't see that were involved in this. It was just such a cool experience, and the fact that all I had to do was foot $30 for a ticket was well worth the price of admission and then some. I mean, it would have been cool enough just seeing the red carpet, but the fact that we actually got to witness and participate in a Q&A after the screening of the movie was just such a cool experience, unlike anything I've ever done before. I've never been to a film premiere in my life, and this was such a cool first. I'm never going to forget this. I know my friends certainly aren't. And I hope that if anyone else is ever considering going to Twin Cities Film Festival or any other film fest like these, I highly recommend doing it because it is such a unique experience and will add to any enjoyment you have from whatever movie you're about to watch. But that's really all I have for you guys on Magpie. Have you seen it yet? Did you think it was amazing? Did you not see it yet? Are you planning to see it? I highly suggest you go and check this out and support independent films. I know a lot of big blockbusters are coming out and everything, but if you are able to see this film, I highly suggest it. And no, I am not a paid shill. I paid $30 to go to this event, and I am just a fan and someone who had a great time and had the ultimate experience I could possibly have seeing this film. So big thank you to West End Cinema. Big thank you to Twin Cities Film Festival for having this for people in the Midwest or even just in the Minnesota area. And yeah, I look forward to attending again if possible. And if they have more stars appear at the film fest, then that would make the experience that much more fun, and I would totally do it again. But please do let me know in the comments down below what you think of this movie, if you've been to Twin Cities Film Fest or any film festival at all, or if you're intending to see this film or you didn't even know what it was, because even I went in completely blind, not knowing anything about the movie other than the title and the lead actress. I didn't see a trailer, I didn't see a poster, I knew nothing, and I went in completely blind. So I would not be surprised if you haven't heard of it yet, and now that you have, please go and see this movie. By the way, if you like this review, like this video. If you want more videos like this in your feed, then I highly suggest hitting that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're alerted when I post new videos, and as always, check out my description to follow me on other platforms. I'm on Instagram, Letterboxd, Serialized, and GG. Letterboxd where I post my movie reviews, Serialized where I post my TV show reviews, and GG is where I post my video game reviews. And not all those reviews make it onto this channel, so if you don't want to be waiting around for me to edit a video every single time you want to know my thoughts on a certain movie, TV show, or video game, then I highly suggest finding me on all those platforms. Giving me a follow doesn't cost you a thing. But until next time, guys, God be with you, and take care.